This morning, we want to turn our hearts to the Lord. We just want to be mindful of his goodness today and how he's been working in our lives and how he is an awesome God. And we just say thank you to God for being in his house today. So we come, and if you're at home and you can stand today, we don't want this to be a spectator sport. We want this to be a worship service. And if you can stand and think about some good things God has done in our lives, we want to just say stand. And we want to say how we love the Lord today, how we worship and adore him for all the great things that he's done. Oh, how we love you today, Lord. We ask that you will stand with us, and that you would have a heart for praise and worship as we honor our God today.
Because
To mention him, I stopped by, what's that, Nutty Bun Cake, and got him a little couple of pound cakes. I haven't heard from him since, bro. So he might still be eating pound cake, but for those that are born in the month of July, Galilee, will you help us sing happy birthday to them? Agreeing to bring the word today. Amen. To encourage our hearts. But as we turn to our altar call right now, we know our list is long, and our hearts are heavy in so many ways. And so we want to remember, we know Reverend Davis has been in the hospital this week and that he's out. And we know that Sister Thomas lost her son. And at 1 o'clock today, they're going to have his funeral. And then he will be laid to rest on tomorrow. So our heart is turned toward Golden Gate at 1 o'clock, because that's our member and her family, we are with them, we are praying for them. And we know even now it's really a hard time for such occasions as this, because we are accustomed to being together and supporting one another. So remember the Thomas family today in a special way. And we want you to continue to pray for Deacon Duncan, who's home and recovering, but you know, when you're recovering from a burn, that's a long journey. So let's just continue to pray that God will protect him from any infections or anything setting up in his body. Deacon Hicks has not been feeling well this week. We want to remember to lift him up in our prayers. And we know that tomorrow Deacon Campbell will go home to lay his aunt to rest, and we know he still has relatives that are suffering from the COVID virus, so we just want to remember him. He's here today, and that's a testament to our faith that we can still praise God in hard times. And so we thank God for his presence today, but we want to keep his family in our prayers and lift him up tomorrow as they go to lay his aunt to rest there. We want to remember Sister Wright and Sister Lawson, who are home recovering from the COVID virus. We want to remember Sister Jones, who's home. Praise God. We want to remember Sister Robinson, Sister Whitaker, Sister Foster, Sister Traylor, Sister Franklin. We want to remember Sister Johnson, who is still grieving the loss of her Deacon Johnson. And so Galilee is still mourning. And we can't seem to get to a good place, but it's always appropriate for us to come to the throne of grace and ask God to help us during these times. And there are many other names I may have forgotten to call today, but we know this world is in need of a Savior. Our president needs a Savior. We know that this world is confused, and it is from the head where the confusion is coming from. So we want to stand now and go to the altar and ask God for his grace and his mercy. We want to ask for his blessings on Reverend Pierce as he brings us God's word today. Oh God, how we love you. How we thank you for waking us up this morning and closing us in our right minds. How we were able to dress ourselves, Lord God, and we were able to move about our homes and things were well. And the phone has not rung yet with any bad news. So God, right now, we just want to say thank you. Thank you, God, for your mercy and your grace and how you're covering us with your love. Thank you, Master. And then, God, we just come today thanking you for your son, Jesus Christ, who sacrificed his life at Calvary for sinners like us. And we come today, God, recognizing that even though we're your children, sometimes we mess up. And so for that reason, God, we ask for your forgiveness today. God, we ask you to consecrate our hearts and our minds, that our minds are stayed on you, and fix us for your service, Lord. We are servants, and we are here to serve. And God, we ask that you will give us a spirit of service, one willingness to go out right now, as dangerous as things are, to continue to minister to people and continue to spread the word, the good news of the gospel. Because, oh God, even though Jesus died at Calvary, he got up from the grave with all power in his hands. And for that reason, our hearts are full of joy today. And we can say we love you. Oh, how we love you and how we magnify your holy name. Oh God, our list is long today. But God, we ask that you would be merciful and that you would be gracious and that you would be all the places we cannot be, that you would be a comforter, God, that you would be a healer. Lord, you've heard these things, Lord, and if we forgot to call any name, Sister Franklin, we just ask, God, that you would be everywhere we cannot be. Lord, if it's food, if it's shelter, if it's clothes, whatever their need is today, healing in the body, Lord, we just ask, we ask it as humble as we know how, God, that you will be with these people, these our people today. Oh God, that we pray for this world in which we live in. We pray for those that don't know you in the pardon of their sin. Lord, we pray that you would equip us and send us out to some lost soul, that we might tell them that you are alive and well and that you love them too, and that you died for them also, and they can have you and have that assurance that one of these old days you're going to take us out of this place if we believe in you and we claim you to be our Lord and our Savior. And for that we say thank you. Oh God, we ask your blessings on the priest's word today. Bless your remembrance. Thank you, God, for him coming and being willing to be a vessel used by you to encourage your people. We ask that you would protect his family and that you would give him grace. Oh God, today we ask that you would stand with Reverend Davis as he continues to do what you called him to do. Lord, in spite of the sickness and in spite of our ailments in our bodies, we know we still gotta go. And so today, God, we're asking for your mercy and your grace. be a comfort today, God. Please be a comfort. And then, God, we just ask your blessings on Galilee in a special way. Oh, Lord, bless you. One of these days, we're going to be able to reassemble in this house and give you praise for the glory and honor and your protection and provision. But until that time comes, God, give us the understanding that we can praise you wherever we are. And right now, God, Galilee is saying, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being our God and being our Savior. And today we honor you with our songs, with our praise, with our scriptures. We say thank you. Oh God, and then one of these old days you're going to come back and take us home. And that's our hope today, Lord God, that when you come and take us home, we'll be there in glory. Well, we shall praise your holy name forever and ever and ever. And that's our prayer today, God. And we pray in the precious name of Jesus. And we say thank you. And the church said, amen. Let's offer God a word of praise today for being the holy God that he is. Yes, sir. He is the King of Kings. Oh, he is the Lord of Lords. He's the great I am. He's the Holy One. He is the Prince of Peace. Oh, he is the Lord of Lords. He's the great I am. He's the Holy One. He is the King of Kings. Oh, he is the Lord of Lords. He's the great I am. He's the Holy One. He is the Prince of Peace. Oh, he is the Lord of Lords. He's the great I am. He's the Holy One. 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 He's the great I am. He's the Holy One. Holy One.
Gracious Father. encouraged, convicted. But most of all, ready to live even more for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We want to give honor this morning to Pastor Davis in his absence. All of the preachers here, deacons, members, family and friends. My wife is here with me this morning and the children are at home. It is truly an honor and a privilege to share with you this morning. It's always an honor to come back to Galilee. And we thank you for your consistent and continued hospitality towards us. And we love you guys. You are always in our prayers. This morning we want to go to the Word. We want to turn to Psalm 13. Psalm 13. And I'll be reading from the Christian Standard Bible. I'll read Psalm 13 in its entirety. Psalm 13. It reads, "How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long will I store up anxious concerns within me, agony in my mind every day? How long will my enemy dominate me? Consider me and answer, Lord my God. Restore brightness to my eyes. Otherwise I will sleep in death. My enemy will say, I have triumphed over him, and my foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I have trusted in your faithful love. Your heart will rejoice in your deliverance. I will sing to the Lord because he has treated me graciously."
All right.
Just for a brief moment, I want to talk about trust me.
All right.
Trust me.
All right.
The opportunity to trust God often comes during unexpected times. Here's what I mean. Life for you and for many may have been going smoothly, and all of a sudden a train wrecks your life. It was unexpected. You've always had great health. Then you suddenly turn ill. Or what about when you've been on your job for many years? Bills have always been paid. You've always had great benefits, but all of a sudden you were laid off. You've been blindsided by turbulence, and you are placed in a situation where it's just you and the Lord. What are you going to do? Will you trust him or will you flee? This psalm, I like it because it's a plea for deliverance, and it challenges us to trust God. This psalm also goes from a dark space to a new day. It appears that the waves of life are rising high over David's head, but in the end, the waves are at rest. His heart opens with trouble, but in the end, he's at peace. This sounds like many of our lives. We continue to ride the roller coaster of life, and life that takes us up and down, trials and tribulation, sickness and health, affliction, trouble and peace. Consistency of joy seems to avoid us, and we need help navigating through our personal chaos. I've learned that just because the Lord allows me to experience ups and downs, heartaches and trouble, it doesn't mean that he's not present.
That's right.
He's allowing me to go through what I'm going through for a reason and just for a season. The question is, will I trust him through it all? When my eyes see failure, when my mind plays tricks on me, when my heart is overwhelmed with emotion, will I trust him? Will you trust him while either when life is smooth or rocky? All right. Whether he heals you or not, all right, will you trust him? Here's the big idea of the message. If you don't get anything else from my points, my introduction, or anything, Here it is. You have to trust God when you can't trace him. Trust God when you can't trace him, meaning this: when we can't feel God, or when it seems like he's not present, or we have to hang on to our faith and know that he's working on our behalf. My faith has taught me that just because it seems like God is silent doesn't mean he's not working.
That's right. That's right.
Three things I want to observe in this text, and I'll take my seat. The first observation we see is the ponder in David's mind. The ponder in his mind. Pondering meaning the thoughts and questions roaming in his mind and in his spirit. Lines 1 and 2 opens with 4 questions. It says, how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long will I store up anxious concerns within me, agony in my mind every day? 4th question, how long will the enemy dominate me? This shows the intensity of his concern. He feels abandoned. He feels that God is playing hide and seek with his face. His soul is overwhelmed with concern. His enemies are on his back. And this is a cry and complaint for God to break his silence and reveal his power. Lord, how long will you allow me to have all this craziness in me and around me? He needs the Lord to acknowledge his distress. His situation is so bad that he's trying to work things out in his own mind and power, because it seems as if he's fighting alone and he has questions. Let me tell you, sometimes life will throw you a curveball and you'll have questions beyond your capacity to answer. During these times of sickness and threat and doubt, you got to know that God has not forgotten you. You might not be able to trace him, but you have to trust him.
That's right.
You have to know that God isn't afraid of your thoughts and your questions. In fact, he loves your transparency. He loves it when you're honest with him. He loves when you open yourself and expose yourself to him. See, he can use an available person.
Yes, he can.
He can handle what you're going through. Don't feel like you're by yourself, because even Jesus had questions. Somewhere in Matthew around chapter 27, Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? What am I saying here? Jesus knows how you feel. He's acquainted with abandonment. But here's the good news. God said he'll never leave you nor forsake you. In these times when you don't feel God, you have to know God. You have to know that he sees you. You have to know that he cares. You have to know that he's coming right on time. You have to know that God works on his own timetable. You have to know that even though the situation may be dim, God still has clear vision.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid of your questions. Take your questions to him. The ponders of David now turn to a prayer of supplication. We now observe the prayer on David's heart. Prayer is how we communicate with God. It gives us an opportunity to open our hearts and pour out our praises, problems, and our ponders. The Bible tells us to pray without ceasing. We have to let our requests be made known to God. So what David does, he now prays to God for help. He opens up his heart and he says in 3 and 4, he says, consider me and answer, Lord my God. Restore brightness to my eyes, otherwise I will sleep in death. My enemy will say, I have triumphed over him, and my foes will rejoice because I am shaken. He wants God to consider his prayer, answer his prayer, and restore him. Otherwise, the enemy will get the victory. David opens up his heart to God. It's personal for him. He didn't go to God with somebody else's prayer or a prayer that he read off the internet. He had a sincere concern on his heart. And the issues of his heart are what he took to God in prayer. He says, consider me, God. Look carefully. Pay close attention. God, I know you see the distress in my eyes. My body is weak and my mind is weary. Listen and respond. I don't want to do this in my own wisdom because I make mistakes. But God, you are perfect. If you don't step in, I'm going to lose for sure. He says, restore the brightness to my eyes. Now, some scholars say here that this is